Latin America region, they do not have any harmonized regulation. How we had seen for Europe, there had been 27 countries, and those 27 countries had one common regulation that has to be followed. So immaterial which particular country reviews your dossier, the standard of review would be equal to all those 27 countries that are part of the EU region. However, in case of LATAM, they don't have as of now any harmonized level of understanding between their countries. So they have all got their country specific regulations, and that causes complexity because you are supposed to work on the regional module, that is module 1, country specific. As discussed in our past many sessions, your module 3, which is a core dossier, which could remain constant all across the countries or the regions. What really varies is your module 1, which is country specific documents, that has to work a lot when it comes to LATAM because they don't have a harmonized requirement. So for every market, you have to have a different module 1 created based on that country's expectation. And then they are currently working to harmonize. So regulatory world is evolving, and every country is trying to kind of evolve their expectations to the highest standard that they could. As of now, in our regulatory environment, ICH is considered the highest standard of expectations when it comes to module 3 writing or module 3 expectations or doing any scientific studies, because of the fact that this is harmonized guidance coming from all. We discussed every agency have their contribution in coming out with a harmonized approaches. So representative of each of the country contribute in developing this ICH regulations, and that's the reason that is considered as the highest kind of a quality that one could meet. So they are trying to, so Latin countries are still kind of underdeveloping, some of them. So they are trying to establish or equate their standards to that of ICH, but they are yet to kind of have that right balance because of the fact that their local population, based on their local population need, there is still a specific requirement that they have to meet. I mean, we know all the government point of view, there is a variation across the region. Like their custom clearance might expect something which our custom clearance may not expect. So based on their government need also, they have to fix their local modules, and that's the reason they are yet to have that right balance to kind of equate their standards to ICH. But the goal is trying to equate that. Now how that best they could approach and when would they approach is still uncertain. I mean, we don't have any particular date, but they are working towards it, and that is also a good thing if you look at the regulatory landscape. Then there are discussions, as we said, that since they are trying to harmonize their approaches with the global requirements, there is approach that is coming forward is regulatory reliance discussions. Now, what is this reliance? So there are new regulatory pathways. So regulatory world is far more evolving than what we are currently studying. So it's an evolving world. So what they are trying to come up with a reliance pathway. What's the reliance pathway is where you give EU dossier, complete Europe dossier, what you would have submitted to Europe, or for that matter to US, whatever is your the developed market country, you extend that same dossier to Latin America market, and they rely on the outcome of the reference market or Europe or US assessment. So they they don't individually anymore review your dossier. They rely on the review of the Europe or US market, and that's the reason they call this pathway as a reliance pathway, and that is what they are coming up with. And that's the reason there is kind of far more smart ways of kind of developing the business case for your own company. So if you look at the companies now, they come up with a single business case for all the countries because this Reliance pathway is not only coming up in LATAM, but many other emerging market countries, and that is why they can simply write one dossier, Europe dossier, and they can give that one dossier to all the countries due to this Reliance pathway. That is where their manpower involvement gets kind of reduced, and that is why they make a single business case. So this is how the regulatory world is evolving, that we are now creating single dossier across the market. If you would have kind of worked in the regulatory environment 5 or 10 years before, you would have realized how difficult it is to customize your dossier on a country requirement basis, because there are very peculiar requirement of the countries. We will be looking at the LATAM still, because as said, they are yet to harmonize. Reliance pathway is still under discussion. So there is a slide in the following discussions where you would know the peculiarity of the LATAM country specific requirement. And that is where one had to invest a lot of time, each company, to customize their dossier on a country point of view, which efforts are now reducing considering the Reliance pathway. So every agency, so there is a huge advocacy ongoing to kind of educate agency and kind of get their agreement to implement this Reliance pathway. So industry is working towards onboarding the agencies to kind of get the agreement for the Reliance pathway. They're kind of creating a huge campaign to kind of make the agencies educated about how best or how advantageous this would be from overall industry point of view. Coming to, as we said, that they are trying to kind of harmonize their requirements to that of ICH. The country, the list of the countries that are part of PIX and the ICH are Anvisa, that's the name of the agency for the Brazil agency. Brazil Medicinal Agency is called as Anvisa. Anvisa is ICH member since 2016. And COFEPRIS, that's a Mexico agency name, that's also member since 21. So these two agencies are part of ICH body. I mean, they are part of ICH members, due to which they extend their ICH requirement understanding to their own country regulation. And that's how they are saying that they are trying to kind of harmonize their requirement to ICH. And these are one of the kind of bigger countries in the Latin America region. So all the other countries who are kind of somewhat follower of these would also extend the understanding once they implement this ICH logic into their regulation. Those small countries in the Latin America region that follows Brazil and Mexico would obviously follow the same regulation into their countries as well. And that's the reason their regulations would soon be evolving into ICH. There are something called as ICH observers. So they are not part of the ICH committee or members. However, they ensure that they are observing the expectations or the regulations set by the ICH, their revisions, they keep on mapping, they are kind of close followers, they keep on observing what's there in the ICH. And those two countries in Latin America region is Argentina, and their health agency name is called as ENMAT, and Colombia, their health agency name is INVIMA. So Argentina and Colombia, they are the observers of the ICH. So they also, though they do not have a stake in kind of contributing in the ICH expectations, once the expectations are set, they are the ones to kind of at least implement into their region because they are the observers. Then PIX member state, ENMAT, Anvisa, and COFEPRIS. I mean, Argentina, Brazil, and Mexico are part of the PIX member state. So the GMP certificates that are PIX member state GMP certificates issued are blindly accepted in these countries. I mean, if at all Brazil GMP is available, Argentina and Mexico would accept it because Brazil is part of the PIX member state. So their GMP requirement would at least equate to that of Argentina and Mexico. The minimum standards have been met. There could be a much higher standard when Brazil reviews, but it is sure that the GMP standards would have said by Argentina and Mexico are minimum met when Brazil agency goes for audit. So if at all you have a GMP certificate of Brazil being part of PICS member, Argentina and Mexico would by default accept that GMP certificate. Coming to the LATAM, as we discussed that though they are trying to harmonize their requirements to that of ICH, there are still specificities or country-specific regulations implemented. Considering those factors, as we said, the major impact happens on Module 1. Module 3, which we discussed extensively, drug product, drug substance, CTD writing, is common across the countries. What is really influenced or impacted when you have different regional requirement is your module 1, because module 1 is regional module. So if we had to look at module 1, then there could be, if at all you have to customize the dossier for the LATAM countries, there could be almost 5 to 50 ancillary documents would be required, depending on which market are you working for the LATAM. Some of the examples I have tried to include is certificate of analysis. You normally see in your Europe dossier or US dossier, you are not mandated to include the certificate of analysis into your dossier. I mean, there is section called S4.4 and P5.4, which is like S4.4 is batch analysis data for drug substance, and P5.4 is batch analysis data for drug product. So if those two sections are well written in Europe, or for that matter in US, you don't need to give the certificate of analysis in these countries. However, when it comes to LATAM, you are supposed to give certificate of analysis for drug substance, excipients, primary packaging issued by vendors and a DP manufacturer. Now, coming to Europe and US, you do include certificate of analysis for excipients or primary packaging material into your CTD sections respectively as a exemplary COA. So because of the fact that those are pharmacopoeial grade materials or at times in-house, but then you include the COA as an example. However, when you come to these countries, they expect you to give the latest COA, not for both vendor and a DP manufacturer, due to the fact that they want to evaluate your latest testing standards for these materials. So the COAs for primary packaging or excipient that are included in Europe dossier CTD sections, they may not anticipate you to update those COAs in future when you're working on those sections. Though as a good practice, you may update. But agency doesn't expect you to update those COAs because those COAs are given as an example. You write in the CTD section that exemplary COA for the excipients have been provided on the following page. Same you write for primary packaging, that exemplary COA for the primary packaging material is given on the following page, and you attach that COA. This is how you write your Europe CTD section.